Thoughts were flying through my head like pages turning, unbelievable, as fast as could be. But while this is happening, I am supposed to be, as a flight attendant, yelling out my commands, which are brace, brace, heads down, stay down, repeatedly over and over until we hit, crash, whatever's going to happen. I didn't want to do that. Why would I do that? These people weren't even going to know what I was talking about. I wanted to be left alone with my own thoughts. I wanted to see what other pages were going to turn in my life. I did not want to do that. But while I'm thinking this, I hear this voice screaming, brace, brace, heads down, stay down, brace, brace. It was me. So I say to U.S. Airways Training Department, good job. It works. Well, the impact came, and it was violent. On the impact, a steel beam, which I have seen this high with an angle iron, came through the floor in front of my jump seat and went through my leg. I didn't even feel it. I didn't know it. So you can imagine that amount of adrenaline running through my body, because if that happened to any one of us now, I'm sure it would be pretty painful. Didn't even know it happened. Now I'm going to take a break right here to tell you how I know how violent this impact was. A little over a year ago, before they moved the airplane to Charlotte, I went to New Jersey to see it in the hangar when I was still able to get on it. I went with one of the other flight attendants and a few U.S. Airways people, and we had a few mechanic tour guides there. When I went in, the one gentleman who was giving the tour pulled me aside and he said, I know you were in the back. He said, are you sure that you want to see this? And I said, I have to see this. This is something that I need to do, part of my healing process. I said, I need to see it, and I need to get on that aircraft. And he said, well, all right, if you're sure, but I just don't think that you're prepared for what you're going to see. We walked into this huge hangar, and the front of the aircraft, normal, some scratches, but normal. We got to the back of the aircraft. The last 6 rows and me, the bottom was ripped out. Gone. See, the aircraft hit back first, and then every 6 rows laid down a little softer. So we got the brunt of that whole impact. He also climbed up in there with all that wires and whatnot and pulled down the piece to show me that went through my leg. Now, when I got on the aircraft, what I saw, which was kind of eerie, I guess, to see, in front of my jump seat, a big cut through the carpet like this, which matched the exact scar on my leg. It was just weird to see. But what I didn't really know was only 2 feet behind my jump seat was a hole that was ripped through the airplane on impact. And that's where all the water came in. And I think how close I came. I must have been inches from stepping in that. I can't even believe how close I probably was. And then before I left, there was a spot where I had to stand for a minute all by myself after everybody else left. I had to stand there alone one more time. And in a few minutes, you'll know exactly what spot I'm talking about. Well, back to the impact. I honestly didn't know if I was dead or alive because everything went in slow motion. Everything was in a really odd feel. My first memory was, because in the last 6 rows, the overheads came down and the masks and everything came down. My first memory were the masks swaying slowly. And I thought, well, maybe this is just how we all are. I didn't know. And then I heard the captain say, evacuate, evacuate. I knew I was alive. My entire body was full of hope. And I thought, all I have to do is get to the door, open it, pull a slide, and evacuate, and get another door and get some passengers to help me. Now, I was under the assumption that we went back to LaGuardia and crashed on the runway. Why would I think anything else? The only view I had was the aisle and some of the passengers. I got so full of hope, I got out of my seat, I went to the door. The other door was blocked with carts and things that had flown out. And there was a porthole. And to see, you truly have to get in there and look. And we're taught to feel and assess for heat and fire. As I get in and look, and all I could see is water, that was the biggest shock I've ever had in my life. I didn't know what to do. That hope that just went through me just went right back down. I thought, you're kidding me. So now I have to rethink this entire situation. For 38 years, I've been taught that in a ditching, you always evacuate from the rear because always the back's going to be up. That wasn't the case. I had no way of knowing we hit back first. I'm trying to get a read on where the water level is, but because of the impact, there's waves. I can't get a definite read. So I look again. I'm not certain. There's water coming in. Still did not know about this hole. I go back up to try to get the passengers to keep going forward at this point because I don't think I'm going to be able to do this. I'm going to give it one more shot to see if maybe I could get one raft out and get at least a handful of people out here. But just as I went to start guiding the people forward, a passenger flew by me and started grabbing at the door wildly. Thank heavens it was an Airbus and not a Boeing. I mean, a Boeing door would have been, whoop, done. An Airbus door has like 3 things that could be, and someone that's not trained doesn't have an idea. She was just grabbing at everything. But right then and there, I knew this wasn't the answer. I grabbed her, pulled her back, tossed her aside, and pushed her up the aisle. Now, as I have said, I had waited 38 years to manhandle a passenger like that. And I could not take the time to enjoy it. What a shame. Truly. So I go back to the door, and in order to open an Airbus door, there's one handle. It has to go into a complete half circle and push out. Well, what had happened, and I don't know if she did this or if the impact did this, but the handle was out half an inch. That was it. But since this water is rising, and I have no idea where it's coming from whatsoever, I assumed it's coming from under there. I mean, I'm telling you this, but this is all happening like this. So in my head, that was the only thing I could think of to try to save the day. So I go back one more time and try to get it back into the thing, thinking it may reseal and stop, but that's not going to happen. I didn't know this. By now, the water is waist level, and it is ice, ice cold. And I'm making trips back and forth and telling the people, I don't know what's up front, but this is not the answer. Move forward. And I'm yelling at them to start climbing over seats because we're not all going to fit. If you're able to climb over the seats, we're not going to all fit up the aisle and make it. So anybody that's able, please climb. I'm yelling out these things that were just coming to my head at the last minute to get people to move. Then I would continue to go back and try to seal that. I came back again, and it seemed to me like there wasn't any progress. Nothing was really happening. It was like the deplaning process where they were standing, and I thought, this is not, they have to move faster. So I yelled. A gentleman told me later that he was in the service, and I was louder than any drill sergeant he had ever heard. I gave it one more shot, realized impossible. I come back, the people are starting to leave, but not enough for me to get out. I stand in the spot. It's right behind the last row of seats. Right in front of the bathroom, the spot I told you about. The water is here. We are trained that you stay until your life is in danger. Well, my life was in danger. And that's when I knew that I was going to be okay. Well, the year after this, we had unbelievable opportunities. Our crew was everywhere, and it was fun, and it was wonderful. But what made it all worthwhile for me was we were allowed to bring a +1, and I was able to share all that with my son. That made it worthwhile. And I will tell you when my healing process truly began. A year later, they had an anniversary party where the passengers and crew went out on the ferry boat, and we had a toast to life at the exact spot, and there was a dinner party that night. When I arrived at the dinner party, a gentleman came up to me. Well, the first time I told this story, I said an older gentleman came up to me. He's my age. When does that happen? Awful. Very serious, very quiet. And he said, "May I have a word with you?" He said, "I heard you were going to be here. I wanted to meet you." He pulled me aside and said, "My son was one of the people in the back of the airplane, in shock, the window seat, that you grabbed and got out of there, or he would have drowned." And he said, "I just wanted to thank you and perhaps shake your hand or give you a hug." Well, we gave each other a hug. There was nothing else to say. He introduced me to his son. I gave him a hug. That moment took away 90% of my drowning nightmare dreams. That was the best thing that ever could have happened to me. But all of this, there are things that I want you to take away from this story. Always let the people that you love know you love them, because you never know. And that survivor instinct, that we've all heard about it. I never gave a whole lot of thought to it, because you hear about it, other people. Well, if I have it, you have it. It's in there for all of us to use at a time when you need it. It doesn't come out to the last minute, but it is in there. And people, in today's world and people, we get disgusted because people are self-centered and rude, and they are. But there are still wonderful people out there. I met two of them, two total strangers, who I don't know what I would have done without. So, faith in mankind, I do believe if you really need somebody, people will step up to help you when you need them. And we had 90 seconds from the time we heard brace for impact to impact. And I told you that all those thoughts that go through your head, what I want you to do when you're alone sometime, because 90 seconds, you may think that's not a long time. Oh boy, it's a long time. Time 90 seconds and let your thoughts go through your head. And if there's something you're not happy with, personally, professionally, whatever, now is the time to change it. I had an opportunity to change mine. Not everybody does. It's a good exercise to do. But mostly, what I want you to take away from this is this. There were 5 crew members on board that day. All 5 of us had years and years of experience, years of training, and we all did what we had to do from where we were in the aircraft. Because remember, if one person had died on this, just one, this would have been U.S. Airways Crash 1549. But because all 5 of us did what we were supposed to do, used teamwork, pulled together, this event is now known as, and will go down in history, as being known as the Miracle on the Hudson. Well, I thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed my story. It's been my pleasure sharing it with you. Thank you.